Good evening, cherubs and cherubinos and chatters. How the hell are you all? Jeez, I look very low or something. We are back. The Chatterhouse, the first official Chatterhouse of 2026. Happy New Year to everybody. And my clock's flashing as well. We are live tonight on Facebook, and we're also live, as Lillian calls it, YouTube. Just to let you know, folks, in case anybody doesn't know, even if you are on YouTube, but you prefer to stay in Facebook, you can actually watch on YouTube on your big smart TV, if you have a smart TV, and stay in your comments on your device. So you could go on your smart TV, watch me in the big screen, much more. What more would you want? Or you can do that and stay on your phone and do your comments in your phone, because that's what we do for other sites and stuff. So it is handy to know. Okay, folks, welcome to, as I say, the first Chatterhouse of 2026. I have a few things to go with you before we start tonight. And I'm going to do all the comments. I'll do the roll call in a wee minute. And I see somebody's just come in on YouTube, and there's a few has come in on Facebook. Now, don't forget, on Facebook and on YouTube, if you want me to say hello, please say hello, because the rules of the Chatterhouse is, if you want to stay in the background, you stay in the background. But if you want to say hello, then I will read your comments out. Right, so let's go to YouTube first. See, I'm just very serious tonight. A lot to get through here, folks, before we start. So straight through the door, Tim for life, and good evening, Stuart, and all in the Chatterhouse. Happy New Year. Hello, Tim. It's nice to see you. I'm glad to see you, because our Auntie Eileen was worried about you on Sunday night that you weren't in. I know she can't expect you to come in all the time, but she was just wondering if you were all right. But it's nice to see that you are. So let's go to Facebook and see who's in, which will not take long, because by the looks of it, there's not many. Okay, right. So who is in? Now, am I seeing all the comments here? Because I think I am. Right, folks, anybody who is in who wants to be mentioned on Facebook, please say hello, because I just want to make sure that these comments are working on Facebook, because I did clear everything before it started. It's just with what is working. Right, okay. So, right, let's see who's in tonight. Straight through the door tonight, who the first one to comment was R.A.J. Walker Music. R.A.J. is in. Good evening, A.J. Nice to see you. Miss Chatterhouse herself, our Michelle McGrogan's in. Nice to see you, our Michelle, the bus driver. And Catherine Playfair. Now, is there anybody else who's there who hasn't? There you are. Yes, and Carrie's there. Carrie's just said testing. Now, Carrie, I don't know if you've commented before, but that's the first comment I've seen of yours. So our Carrie Ferguson's in as well, my local historian as well. Anybody else who's commented who and I haven't seen it? Johnny Cahoon is in, my nephew, as well. Nice to see you, Johnny. Got your comment. It might just took a wee bit of time to warm up, because we've been off the air. Tim for Life says he was very busy at the weekend. Tell Ian, I will never forget her. She's on tomorrow night, Tim, at 8 o'clock on TikTok. Right, okay. So I've a load to get through here before we actually get into tonight's subject. Carrie says, yes, I commented before, but it just could be a technical glitch. Okay, Carrie. As I'm speaking tonight, folks, if you are coming in, I will keep an eye on the comments, and if anybody else does come in, I will say hello. Right, where's my list? I'm organized today. First of all, big apology. Yeah. Big apology. There was supposed to be a coffee morning. It's a new thing we're starting to do now and again. And Arso here forgot about it. I have been up to my eyes, and it's my own fault. It's no excuse, so I do apologize. And I got myself all messed up and mixed up and everything. And I got a notification 20 minutes from YouTube telling me that I was going live in 10 minutes or something. Wow! I was only up out of my bed because, I don't sleep very well or whatever. So I do apologise. It was entirely my fault. There will be more of these coming up, these coffee mornings as well. Right, number 2, Chatterhouse Extra. I have had people messaging me asking me why there's a Chatterhouse Extra on TikTok. Right. The Chatterhouse Extra is an extension of the Chatterhouse on Facebook and YouTube. Basically, I am trying to attract more members in from TikTok. Chatterhouse Extras on TikTok, right? And I'm trying to attract more members into the main Chatterhouse on Facebook and also on YouTube. Also, to extend the Chatterhouse's name to TikTok as well. There'll be an odd live there as well. Maybe things that we have maybe discussed here, because there is actually one coming up about the use of dating apps. Have you ever did it? Have you ever done it? Would you ever consider it? And if you do remember, we did that before. So don't worry, the Chatterhouse is not leaving Facebook, and it's not leaving YouTube unless Facebook bucks us out completely, because you know what they're like. And we'll have to go to YouTube or something. But other than that, we are not moving. Our Luke Brown is in. Our Luke Brown is in. Oi, oi. Our Luke is a new member. Luke is also a follower of Auntie Onion on TikTok. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but Luke is a new member. He is originally from Northern Ireland, but he lives in Gibraltar now. Logan calls him Miss Gibraltar. So look, you're very, very welcome in to the Chatterhouse. Tim's over on YouTube and he shouts, Luke! Tim says, load everyone to the Facebook Chatterhouse Lodge. I mean, Lodge as in house. Jackie, there's a couple of people's just come in there. Don't forget to comment for me to say hello. So look, you're very, very welcome. Welcome to the Nut House. Right, okay, so just wanted to clear that up about TikTok first of all. Chatterhouse is not moving to TikTok. It's only an extension of the original group to attract new members into our group. Okay, next thing. There's been a few rumbles. Hello, Jackie McFarland, as if one day she would come. A singer with a Spanish bum who sings for women of great virtue. Nice to see you, Jackie. Right. Tip for life, by the way, is going, we say, it's going, look, Jackie, Carrie. Right, okay. There's been a few rumbles about, he's shouting Michelle and all, he's good through everybody. There's been a few rumbles about this new time on a Wednesday night at 8:30. Look, I put a poll up. I don't mean a Polish person. I put a poll up and voted fairly and asked the members what they wanted. That's what I did. So that's the way it's going to stay. And I'm sorry it doesn't suit everybody, but the majority won, and that's the way it works. And I know there's been a few rumbles and whatever, but I can't help it. I was only trying to be fair, and I'm trying to please everybody, you know what I mean? So we are trying our best to facilitate everybody. Our fellas is in. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Killian's in, and somebody else come in there. Jackie saying, Tim! So just wanted to clear that up. We are trying our best, folks. We really, really are. Now, list of events coming up, just very quickly. Next Wednesday night, we have Julie Ruddock joining us. Now, Julie Ruddock is a very old friend of mine. I used to work with Julian. Not Julian, Jesus Christ. Julie, many, many years ago, we used to work together, but Julie lives in Scotland now. You're all shouting Tim here, you're all shouting each other. And Julie has a fantastic YouTube channel, and it's called Exploring Scotland's History. Here are Tim there. And Julie is actually coming to speak with us next Wednesday night, and we will be talking about various Scottish witch stories through history, and also we'll be touching on the witch trials as well. We have something planned in the future for that too, but this is basically in Scotland. And what she's going to actually do is we're going to look at a few of her videos Tim says he knows the channel well. Julie's a friend of mine, Tim. I used to work with Julie. So we will be bringing, Julie's joining me next week. I'm actually meeting her next week to arrange what we're doing, and she's here next Wednesday. Now, our book club is beginning. If anybody doesn't know, we're starting a book club. Now, it was supposed to be on this Monday, but Stuart messed it up again. And I put it down for Sunday, and I can't do Sunday and I can't do Monday. So it's not starting now until Monday the 26th of January. That's not this Monday, but next. The book has been chosen. And the first night of the book club, we will be looking at what the book is going to be. And also, then I'm going to give you 2 weeks after that to get the book. And then it'll be every week. It'll be 2 chapters a week, because I do understand that there is some people like myself that doesn't have a good attention span to read. All will be explained. So that's going to be starting on Monday the 26th of January, and the book is a belter. The book is a belter, so just watch this space. Now, hang on. Tim says, is the book Ladies Chatterley Lover? No, it's not Ladies Chatterley's Bloody Lover. It's not 50 Shades of Grey either, you, Johnny. These are desperate. Hey, hang on to get my list. Hang on to see what's next. What have I forgot? No, that's my shopping list, actually. Right, so that's us all caught up. That's all the announcements. So once again, folks, just keep an eye out for all the events coming up on Facebook and also on YouTube. All the events will be put up for that as well, if I don't break them up and put them up for wrong dates. There is going to be another coffee morning soon, but I just haven't pinpointed the morning yet. I have just been doing, since I've come back from holiday, it's just been catching up. Yes, one more thing. It's back. It's back. For all the Alien fans, and maybe people who like other people, Alien's Pop It In podcasts are resuming. And it's actually going to be on a Friday for the next couple of weeks. So this Friday night, Alien's Pop It In podcast is returning. And it's going to be with our Elaine McGuinness. Now, if anybody doesn't know who Elaine is, some of you have actually met Elaine because she was at the old Chatterhouse meet and greet day. And Elaine's on this week, and next week's a good one as well. Elaine's shoplifting, Miss Tim's. Yes. So there's a load going on, folks, a load going on, and I'm in the middle of it all. Right, so, tonight, I thought I would do a wee bit of a mixture of 2 things about the same thing, if you know what I mean. What we're going to look at tonight is, we are going to look at the London Underground. And you're going to say, what the hell are you going to tell me that? But what I want to do is, there's a twist in this. The first video we're going to look at is the history of the London Underground, and also as well what actually happened when it was being built, during it was built, through the war, what it was used for, and then video 2 goes into the ghosts of the London Underground. Tell me the spooky stories. There's loads. There is. I'm going to tell you something. See, when I actually went in to look at this, pardon me, I couldn't believe the amount of stuff that's there. And I'll tell you, when you see the first video, the first video is a wee bit technical now, so I will maybe pause now and again to break it up a bit. But when you see the history of the London Underground, you'll be able to understand why there's so much paranormal. Johnny can't see anybody's comments. Johnny, you maybe need to come out and come back in again. It breaks up now and again. It's doing my head in. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the first one. Now, the first one is the history of the London Underground, and this video has came from Mega Project's YouTube channel. This is an Australian, I think he's an Australian fellow, but he sort of lives in London, and this is the history. So what I'm going to do is, because I am aware a lot of people watch this on your phones, I'm going to go teeny weeny, so, you know that, and then the screen will be big. So let's get it ready first so I don't frig it up. So what do we say? Let me go small first. I'm going to go small. So here we go. This is the history. The history of the London Underground. And I will pause then again to discuss what he's talking about. So here we go.
During the first half of the 19th century, London's population grew faster than it ever had. By 1860, the city's population had risen to almost 3.8 million people, making it not only the most populated city in the world, but also one of the most crowded and dirtiest urban locations you were ever likely to see at the time. The small, cramped streets were overflowing with carriages, horses, street sellers, pickpockets, mounds of rubbish, human and animal excrement, and because we're all talking about the UK after all, plenty of rain-induced mud. Britain may have been flexing its colonial muscles, but its capital was straining against such rapid expansion. With chaos on the surface, there was only one place a new transportation system could go, and that was, of course, underground. What opened in 1863 may have been just a fraction of what we call the London Underground today, but it revolutionized urban transportation and forever changed modern metropolises. The success of the London Underground led to countless other systems being introduced in cities around the world, and as of 2021, there are roughly 185 finished underground systems across the globe, with several more nearing completion. As our lives have increasingly been boxed together in modern megacities, underground railways have become almost the standardized system for reducing congestion on the surface. And it all began in 1863 with a 6-kilometer stretch of line known as the Metropolitan Railway. But before we jump back to the Dickensian squalor that was London in the early 19th century, let's have a look at the modern underground system, commonly known as the Tube. London's underground system today spans an area that sprawls much further than the traditional and always expanding boundaries of the English capital. The entire network spans around 400 kilometers, but interestingly, only 45% of that is underground. Today, the Tube covers 270 separate stations, 11 of which lie outside the Greater London area, spread across its 11 lines. On a normal working day, pre-pandemic of course, it would have a daily ridership of about 5 million people. And all of its trains combined travel around 69 million kilometers each year, which is around halfway to the sun. It may not be the biggest, newest, or most reliable underground system in the world, but it is arguably the most iconic. This is...
Okay, folks. Hi, Elaine. Elaine McGinnis has just come in there. As Elaine was telling you about the podcast. I just want to say something, and the thing about it is that people don't realise, if you don't live in London, how important the Tube network is. You would be lost with it. You would be lost without it. It's so quick. Yes, it's not the most. They are trying to modernise it as much as they can. They are trying to make it more disabled access for people. But they are trying their best. They've got the new Elizabeth line now as well, which was originally the Crossrail, which has actually cut down a lot of the journeys. Now, so let's carry on into, Tim says, Elaine, let's carry on into the history.
A sprawling story that covers over 150 years and is still ongoing today. So, well, we're just going to have to cherry pick some of the key points here, but we're sure it's going to be an enjoyable ride. The early 19th century saw the beginning of what has come to be known as the Pax Britannica. This translates as British peace, a lauded name that indicated a relative peace between major European nations, but with Britain continuing its role as colonial dominator-in-chief across the planet, the word peace was a bit of a stretch. Riches brought back from the empire poured into Britain, particularly London. The city was booming, and by around 1825 it had overtaken Beijing as the most populated city in the world. But if you've ever been to London, you'll know full well that space comes at a premium, and this was exactly the same 200 years ago, although the size of the city itself was much smaller. By 1850, there were 7 major railway terminals in the city, and there had been murmurings about building an underground system in London for at least 2 decades. But considering how normal we consider the Tube today, back in the mid-19th century, this was a dangerously radical idea. One plan, which had been backed by the city in 1852, fell through because of a lack of interest from railway companies. Not only did many think it would never succeed, but most doubted the idea could ever be profitable. In 1854, the Metropolitan Railway was granted permission to build the first underground railway between Farringdon Street and Paddington, two bustling railway stations. The cost of construction was estimated at £1 million, which is £142 million today, though because of the ongoing Crimean War at the time, the company initially struggled to raise the funds needed and construction on the line did not begin until March 1860. Today, boring drills can chew through the ground beneath the city with relative ease and with minimum disruption, but things were far from that simple with the world's first underground railway. Much of the Metropolitan Railway was created using a system called cut and cover, a technique where a trench was cut into the ground, then eventually covered by a supporting roof. Between King's Cross and Paddington, a large trench 10.2 meters wide was excavated with brick retaining walls eventually added along the entire route with elliptical brick arches or iron girders spanning 8.7 meters covering the top of the trench.
God.
As you can imagine, you can't exactly do this when there are buildings above, and most of the earliest sections of the London Undergrounds were built beneath existing roads. From King's Cross, the line passed through a 666-metre-long tunnel under Mount Pleasant in Clerkenwell before finishing with an open cutting, meaning the line was not underground but had raised banks on either side near Smithfield Meat Market in Farringdon. The work was done almost exclusively by hand, though an early conveyor belt system was used to shift vast amounts of earth. Inside the trench, two railway lines were laid, with a gap of 1.8 metres between the two. By November 1961, the Metropolitan Railway had commenced trials, and in May 1862, a group of visiting dignitaries became the first people to travel through the system.
So that was actually the first train there. Now, could you imagine now in those days? Obviously, the tracks weren't electrified then or anything. It was all steam trains down those tunnels. Now, I have been on the tube in the summer as it is, and the heat down there is unreal. But could you imagine what it would have been like then with those steam trains, with the soot, the steam? Oh my God.
The line made stops at Paddington, Edgware Road, Baker Street, Portland Road, Gower Street, King's Cross, and Farringdon Street, and it officially opened to the public on the 10th of January 1863. Any doubts that remained over the railway's financial potential quickly evaporated as it was an immediate and enormous success. On the first day alone, the system carried 38,000 passengers, and a total of 9.5 million passengers travelled on the Metropolitan Railway in the first year. Yet while it was certainly popular, it was a far cry from the modern system we see today. Passengers were transported via gaslit wooden carriages hauled by steam locomotives, which meant you often exited the system coughing and smelling as if you had been sat next to a bonfire for several hours. Lovely. In 1869, the type of coal used was changed to the smokeless Welsh variety, which helped, but it remained far from a sedate experience, so kind of pretty much like rush hour today. The success of the Metropolitan Railway meant that there was no shortage of plans for further lines. The first to get going was a line that would eventually become the District and part of the Circle Line, although back then it was referred to as the Metropolitan District Railway. Roughly speaking, this would be the southern section that would link up with the existing Metropolitan line to the north and create an inner circle in the city. Well, that was the plan. Due to a combination of high construction costs and compensation payments and a later dispute with the Metropolitan Railway, who operated the trains when the line opened and took 55% of gate receipts, the construction of the Metropolitan District Railway was a hard slog. But slowly, things took shape, with a 7.6 metre wide and 4.8 metre wide deep cut and cover tunnel along the majority of the route, although west of
I told you he's a bit technical, just bear with it. It's not that long.
Gloucester Road was open cuttings to help with ventilation. On Christmas Eve, 1868, the first trains began to run from South Kensington to Westminster, with stations at South Kensington, Sloane Square, Victoria, St James's Park, and Westminster Bridge. This section of the line, roughly 2/3 of the whole line when completed, cost £3 million, about £347 million today, nearly three times that of the entire Metropolitan Railway. The line eventually terminated at Mansion House in 1870 without connecting to the Metropolitan line. By this point, the two underground lines had a major falling out. As I mentioned, when the District Railway opened, it was serviced by trains from the Metropolitan line. The huge cost of construction meant the new line was already struggling, and with what they considered an unfair division of gate receipts, they soon rebelled and decided to run their own services. This led to a spat that wasn't ironed out for another 20 years. And speaking of rebelling and running your own services, well, who are you going to go to when you want to start a new website for your brand or business? Well, you already know the answer.
We've already advertised in here, hold on.
Now more than ever, people are getting creative. Use Squarespace to do that because it's... Let's get back to the underground.
There you go. I sorted that out. Just before we carry on, Tim says he's enjoying the video with wee Iron Rouge right out of Fanta Perfect off Tim. That's how Lillian escapes after shoplifting. She uses the underground tunnels. Carrie says women didn't used to go under the underground or trains in general. They thought the trains moved too fast and their wombs would fall out. Lovely. And Catherine Playfair says, I could tell plenty of story about steam trains. I love steam trains, Catherine.
As much as we'd love to regale you with the details of each line extension, we'd be here for an extremely long time, as a lot was going on in the final decades of the 19th century. So we'll try to motor through just a few of the most important ones. First up, we had extensions to both the Metropolitan Line and the District Railway, with both expanding east and west, with several track offshoots appearing. But on top of this were a flurry of new lines. In 1868, the Metropolitan and St John's Wood Railway opened and quickly expanded northward to bring places like Hampstead Village into the line and eventually reaching as far as Buckinghamshire. It was, however, back within the hustle and bustle of central London that the Underground began to reach new depths with the introduction of deep-level tubes. Remember, by this point, almost everything included on the various lines were either cut and cover or open cutting, but this all changed with the City and South London Railway line that opened in 1890. The line, which stretched from King William Street near Monument Station today to Stockwell in South London, measured 5.1 kilometres, and it was the first line to run underneath the River Thames. Two 3.1-metre circular tunnels were dug between King William Street and Elephant and Castle, with a slightly larger tunnel continuing to Stockwell. This was an important line for another reason, as it became not only the first in London to use electric trains, but the first anywhere in the world. The original plan to use cable cars was scrapped when the company producing them went bankrupt, and instead the line began using an electric system with current supplied by a third rail beneath the small cramped carriages, which came to have the unfortunate nickname padded cells. The Waterloo and City line opened in 1898 and linked Waterloo and Bank without any stops in between. That might sound like the world's most useless railway, but with huge numbers of people coming into the city from the south terminal of Waterloo and heading to the financial district around Bank, it certainly made sense and helps to explain why that line has the nickname the Drain. The Central London Railway, which forms part of the modern Central Line, opened in 1900 and ran from between Bank and Shepherd's Bush in the west, servicing a total of 13 stations along the way. Two tunnels were dug parallel to one another, 18 to 34 metres below ground, and ran for 9.14 kilometres. This was later extended from both ends and today runs for a total length of 74 kilometres.
And you've got to remember too, folks, that these people, when they were building these things, didn't have all these big, as he said, the cutting machines and all that they have now. You know, this was a lot of hard work. Tim for Life says Waterloo Station was opened by ABBA. And Johnny says, I heard Auntie Lillian sells herself on the Lisburn to the Great Victorious. What? I heard Auntie Lillian sells herself on the Lisburn to get the Great Victorious.
If creating deep tunnels had changed the landscape of the London Underground system, then their full electrification forever changed the experience. As I mentioned earlier, a trip on one of the early lines would certainly have got you from A to B quite quickly, but it was not an enjoyable journey. Often with poor ventilation, the early Underground lines were an oppressive mixture of toxic smoke pouring from the locomotives and heat that during the summer could build up to deeply uncomfortable levels. One early passenger famously remarked that his journey had given him his first glimpse of Hades, the Greek god of death from the underworld. Things changed when electrification was added to the system in the early years of the 20th century. By this point, both the City and South London Railway and Central London Railway had begun using direct current, a DC system, with two conductor rails energized, one with a positive current and the other with a negative one. This was very much cutting-edge technology at the time and probably worked well initially because these were relatively short lines. An agreement between the Metropolitan and District lines in 1901 appeared to set the system on course to use an AC system with overhead wires, but after an American businessman invested in the District line, things switched to a DC system similar to what was already in operation on other lines. Both began using the new DC system in 1905, and I think it's fair to say that we haven't looked back since. The early years of the new century were some of the busiest in terms of construction that the city has ever seen. Lines were being extended in all directions, but the system itself was still very much fragmented. This was not so much a network as rather a series of separate companies often trying to outdo each other for profit while not passing up the opportunity to undercut their competition. While nationalisation didn't occur until 1948, the establishment of the Underground Electric Railway Company of London in 1902 was the first effort to bring several lines under the same umbrella company. In its early days, it effectively controlled 4 lines: the Baker Street and Waterloo Railway, the Charing Cross, Euston and Hampstead Railway, the Great Northern, Piccadilly and Brompton Railway, and the District Railway.
Now, here's a wee bit about the map. Now, listen to this, because I watched a wee bit of this today while downloading it. And this poor man who originally designed this map.
Of course, no discussion regarding the London Underground system would be complete without discussing its most iconic image, the map. The tube map has become one of the most widely reproduced maps anywhere in the world, but its orderly lines and the close distances between stations are not quite what you'd see in real life. The problem was, how do you provide a map that is pleasing to the eye while also giving the relevant information? In the early days, before it was an integrated system, there was no official map of all the separate railways. Each service would provide its own route maps, but it wasn't until 1921 that a complete map appeared. But the station names were often squashed and difficult to read, while the chaotic lines were enough to eventually persuade you to just give up and walk. In 1931, an ex-railway employee, Harry Beck, completed his own version of the map, but his submission was initially rejected. 2 years later, he gave it another go, and while alterations have occurred over time, our modern map is roughly the same as Beck's second attempt. He was said to have been paid £10, that's £650 today, for the map at the
£10 he got paid. £10.
time, and received 0 royalties after that, even though it eventually became a global hit, selling millions of copies around the world.
Yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Here's the history. Another bit of history.
As the British found themselves at war in 1939, the London Underground system would go on to be used for a very different purpose than it had been designed for. When German bombers began hitting London in 1940, underground stations were soon being used as bomb shelters. During the day, train service would continue as normal, but by night, an estimated 130,000 Londoners would cram into the tube station.
Look at that, folks. Look at that. Lying on the platforms. Obviously, the electric has been turned off in the rails and lying on the rails. Isn't that unbelievable? I'm sure there was some stories down there. Unbelievable.
Across the city. As the Blitz dragged on, amenities within the tunnels and stations greatly improved, with dinner and breakfast sometimes on offer. And a quick fun fact for you, ex-talk show host Jerry Springer was born in Highgate Station on the Northern Line when his mother sought refuge during a bombing raid in 1944. But
there you go.
being in a tube station there was still no guarantee of safety. In March 1943, a panic in Bethnal Green Station led to 173 people dying in the single worst accident to occur on the underground system. As Britain and London began to slowly clamber back to their feet after World War II, it didn't take long until the idea of building additional underground lines was raised. The Victoria Line, which today stretches from Brixton in the south to Walthamstow in the northeast, was the first line that didn't have to follow the road system above. After some trial tunnelling in 1959, work began in 1963, and the new line finally opened in 1968. You might well know that the first driver to take a train along the line was none other than Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. It was
There she is. There's our queen when she was alive. She was the first.
said to be only her second ever ride on the underground at the age of 42. That might be surprising, but can you really imagine the Queen slogging through rush hour on the Central Line crammed below a sweaty armpit? Well, no,
Lovely.
me neither. The Jubilee Line, stretching from Stratford in the east to Stanmore in the west, was the second of the new lines to open in 1979. Technically, it's coloured silver to mark the Queen's Silver Jubilee, but really, it's the grey line. We probably take systems like these for granted today, as they've become the norm in many large-scale cities. But when you take a step back and think about how many people, trains, and computer systems are working in conjunction, usually fairly smoothly, it's kind of mind-blowing. As any Londoner can attest, the system is far from perfect, but that often has more to do with the fact that they're using an underground railway first constructed over 150 years ago, rather than any overarching failings. And like many capital city dwellers, Londoners can be a fickle bunch, and it's not uncommon to see somebody rolling their eyes in annoyance because they need to wait 6 minutes.
I will catch up with your comments in a minute.
And first world problems and all that. If you've been following megaprojects since the early days, you might remember a video we did back in the day called the Crossrail Project, London's seemingly cursed new line, which is
This Crossrail project, by the way, folks, this video was done a while ago. This is actually the Elizabeth line. It was renamed the Elizabeth line that I was talking about at the start of the live there.
Going to bisect London. With most construction work now finished, it only seems now to be a matter of testing, but this saga has been dragging on for so long, I think many people have given up on trying to predict when it will be finished. But if you've enjoyed this video on London Underground and you're interested in what's coming next for London, why not give that a watch after this one? London's complex underground railway system rarely gets the plaudits it deserves. Too often people spend time moaning about delays and crammed conditions rather than appreciating the extraordinary ingenuity needed to build a system so complex which, generally speaking, works well most of the time. Modern cities would be incomprehensible without underground systems, and because of that, the London Underground has to be considered one of the most revolutionary transportation networks that the world has ever seen.
And there you go, because that's basically the end. Okay, when I get myself back up here again. Right, okay. Now, I want... yes, Carrie, that's right, it was the Jubilee, yeah. Right, let's carry on with... I can't even speak, I'm away with here. Catch up with the comments. Tim says shoplifting queue is called the Lillian line. Lovely. Right. You're desperate. Right, okay. Carrie says the pictures of the people using the tube as a shelter during World War II are incredible. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure they could tell some stories, Carrie and everybody. I'm sure some stories were told down there. There was actually a few accidents and things. A few people got killed as well. I think we're actually going to hear more about that in the second video. Johnny Green says, when the Queen came on there and basically she was on the tube, Johnny says there's our Minnie, which is our grandmother. Because my grandmother, was she was the Queen mad. She was royal and mad. I was going to think my granny was the Queen there. Myself. And Carrie says that wasn't it named the Elizabeth line because it was opened in the year of the Jubilee. I think it was, Carrie, yeah. And as I say, when the Elizabeth line, which was originally Crossrail, opened, it has reduced a lot of travelling time in London. You know, when we go over there, you know, a journey that maybe took an hour now only takes 30 to 20 to 30 minutes or less. You know, it's just different. It's incredible the way it's been done. I think people forget in London, you know, their transport system, as we talked about the other week when we were talking about London also, is, you know, people do moan about it and they gurn about it and they yap about it and whatever, but they've got a hell of a lot of a better transport system even that we have here, you know, especially for price-wise as well. Fare, the way the fares are worked out, I told you about the Oyster card, you know what I mean? You just get on the buses, doesn't matter how far you go, you're charged the same here, goes by distance. It's second to none. I think because people in London have grown up with it, it's not appreciated as much because they're used to it. But the likes of us, once we get the hang of it, find out how brilliant it is. It does get overcrowded. It can get overcrowded. The tube trains and stuff especially can get very uncomfortable. But the thing about it is, it's second to none compared to some countries have. And you heard what I said in the video there. It was, you know, it was the first in the world to electrify their underground trains. You know, it's just totally incredible. So there you go. Right, so that was the history. Now, before we move on to the ghost stories, now this is brilliant, this video. So once again, that first video came from Mega Projects. Now, just a wee 2-second break. I'm not doing a break tonight. We're not having an interval. But what I want to show you is there's been something going on this week in the background on Facebook. Just taking us away for a couple of minutes to brighten yourselves up a bit, right? There's been a series of videos has been shown this week Auntie Lillian's in trouble, and we don't know what's going on. Now, there's been 2 released on Facebook. There's been 3 released on TikTok now. So for the people on Facebook, this hasn't been released on the main Facebook yet. This is the third installment. It only lasts 1 minute. This is the third installment. I know Tim for Life's seen it because I seen he liked it on TikTok earlier on and a few others. Someone is looking for Auntie Lillian. Video 3. But who is it? Who could it be? Stay tuned. All will be revealed. Stephen Nolan. No, it's not Stephen Nolan. It's why Timberlake says it's me. You knows me, it's Henry. No, I didn't know you had hair like that. Tim, she's a queer head of hair on you. Will I tell you something? I have actually seen today a photograph of Stephen Nolan on his holidays. Has he lost a hell of a lot of weight or something? Is he on the Murgiano or something, or the Murgiani or whatever the hell you call it? Because I couldn't believe when I seen him today in the photograph, the amount of weight that he's lost. Oh my God. AJ says it's the tech woman. Lillian didn't pay up. All I'm going to say, sorry, I'm choking here. It's going to run for Norway, so it will be revealed. Johnny Gahin says he's lost 6 stone. Oh my God. Catherine play for her. I said that's definitely Lee's ass. It's actually not. It's not. So it will be revealed. Lost 6 stone. Oh my God. So just keep tuned for that. It's going to run for a few days. Just keep tuned. It's the prominent one. It's worse. And that's all I'm going to say. Right, okay. He's on the Manjaro. I can never pronounce that, Johnny. I can never pronounce that stuff. Right, okay. So we've did the history. I need a drink. I'm dehydrating. Do you know what it is? I've got the heating on the night. Normally I don't have the heating on when I'm alive because I get all flustered. But it's just because that bloody cold. I had to turn it on. I go out there, at least sitting out there, sitting in icicles. By the way, folks, his eyes got a lot better now. It's went down a lot now and it's not black on it. Well, the blackness is going out of it now. It's another story. I'm going to beat the bake of him. Right, okay. So, we're now getting into part 2. Catherine says, well, it's AJ. Catherine, what are you fascinated with arses or something? What is it about arses? Catherine. Right. So we've did the history. There might be a wee bit of history in this one as well. This video came from, by the way, folks, on YouTube and also on Facebook. Poor man, we wanted a Chinese. These videos, I will put the links on YouTube afterwards, and I'll also put them on Facebook so you can go and check out more of their videos. Please subscribe to their channel if you like their content, because after all, these people put the time and effort in making these videos. Right, so this one here, it's only about 15 minutes long, folks, so we'll not keep you as long. This is called the Dark Paranormal channel, right? And this is Ghost Stories of the London Underground. So here we go. And there's our guest for next week. It's just juked in there. I don't normally do that, but she is juking in. Hello, Julie. You're very welcome. So let's go and look at the ghosts of the London Underground. Once again, this came from the Dark Paranormal channel. Did you like that voice? Here we go. What's it again? Stuart hit the wrong one. Sorry about that. Right, here we go.
Not all of our minisodes need to be from listeners. In fact, places or lesser-known cases can sometimes take us to dark realms. Hello everyone, and welcome back to your first video edition of Dark Realms. Now, if you're listening on the podcast, just hop over to YouTube, type in youtube.com/The Dark Paranormal, and hopefully you should see this edition of Dark Realms there for you to view. And at the same time, if you're viewing this on YouTube and you fancy the idea of listening to the Dark Paranormal podcast, which is where this sprang from, if you will, then head over to wherever you get your podcasts and search for the Dark Paranormal. And on perfect timing, on episode number 1, my cat has decided to join me. Come on. You coming up? This doesn't usually happen in Dark Realms episodes. No. Come on. There she is. Everyone say hello to Nova. This is...
Hello, Nova.
Nova. And she shouldn't be interrupting recordings like this, so I'll let her off because it's the first video one that we've ever done. And obviously, if you're listening to this on audio, you're probably thinking, why is he talking about a cat instead of what he should be talking about, which is today's Dark Realm. Now, today's Dark Realm is a truly fascinating, beautiful place. It's not even one place, it's a myriad of places, making the greatest labyrinth arguably in the UK. It's one of those places for me that if you go to London, you're going to inevitably have to use the tube. But you never really stop to take in the beauty, the architecture, literally the changes in decades and the scenery around those places. The underground, the tube, whichever you want to call it affectionately, one thing is certain, it's the world's oldest underground railway system. It opened its first line, the Metropolitan Railway, on January the 10th, 1863, and it was born out of London's need to ease congestion on the overcrowded streets. It was envisioned by city planners and engineers as some way to move those large numbers of people around the city beneath the surface. And the construction was cruel. It was grueling and it was deadly. They were using cutting clay methods, a way of making a tunnel that can make everything collapse onto you. Something that took place more often than people probably know, because that surface, they had to dig through sheer rock. They had to dig through plague pits, using these standard methods. The system expanded rapidly when electric trains came along and replaced the steam locomotives in the early 1900s. It revolutionized urban travel, and over time, brilliant minds like Charles Yerkes, Frank Pick helped shape the network, not just in terms of engineering, but also its iconic design and the signage we all know today. The underground spans 272 stations and 250 miles of track. It's an enduring testament to the visionaries who dared to take London beneath the streets. London's tube is not only rich in history, in beautiful varying designs of the day, as stations were added throughout the eras, but if we believe the legends, especially about the 4 stations we will look at today, we are talking about some very, very beautiful but dark realms. These seem to be a mixture of tragedy, folklore, and the occult, converging in a transport network under the capital city, which all seem to firmly cement the tube system as a dark realm. We'll begin with Covent Garden. Covent Garden was designed by Leslie Green and opened in 1907 as part of the Piccadilly line. Now, despite a near closure in 1929 due to low ridership, it managed to survive and is now counted as a Grade 2 listed building because of its historical value and just how beautiful it is. However, from when it opened, whispers began. whispers from staff who'd seen or heard this spectral visitor in the tunnels. The station is haunted by the ghost of a William Terrace. Terrace was stabbed to death in 1897 outside the nearby Adelphi Hotel by none other than the understudy for his role.
Okay.
In life, he often used to buy snacks at a bakery that's located where Covent Garden Station now is. Maybe that's why he likes to roam these passageways. But that seems very unlikely. Terrace's tall, cloaked figure has been seen by numerous staff roaming the empty platforms. Causing such a fear within the staff, some employees have even gone as far as requesting transfers to either another station or another shift so they don't work at night. I saw a tall man wearing a grey suit, a funny collar, white gloves, looking at me from the anteroom. The thing disappeared. No one was in the passage, and there was not a sound of footsteps. That's a quote from foreman Jack Hayden, describing his 1955 encounter with a Covent Garden ghost. In one terrifying episode from the 1950s, staff even held a séance to try and identify the restless spirit. A London Underground foreman, who also considered himself something of a spiritualist, sketched the apparition's features. When everyone was shown photographs of Terrace, they all exclaimed, "That's him." To this day, Terrace's ghost is blamed for inexplicable events, footsteps, an oppressive atmosphere, all taking place in the Covent Garden passages. Those who've seen the figure describe an unsettling silent apparition in old-fashioned clothing, cloaks, gloves. It's said that Terrace's spirit may be seeking revenge for his untimely death, or maybe continuing his old routine, going to that bakery that once stood there. Either way, the sight of this gentleman ghost in the dim shadows has terrified some people so much they've literally resigned. We could think of Terrace's apparition as merely stone tape theory, the idea that some activity, i.e. his death, has found its way into the walls, seeped into the history of the surrounding area, and if the conditions are right, he will arrive and show himself to whoever. But given the fact the foreman's quote says he looked at him directly, that would imply sentience. So who even knows if we're dealing with Terrace's ghost or something darker taking the form of Terrace? Now let's move on to our next station, Farringdon Station. Now with this Victorian station...
Can I just say something for 2 seconds, folks? So Carrie says I would love to see a tube ghost. Is that bad? Can I just say something? This man knows how to tell a story. His language is absolutely fantastic. He draws you in. Tim says you can tell I'm interested. The jokes of stop looking spurred Hunt Sailors of Iceland. Lovely. No, but he really does draw you in. His language is... The way he presents is absolutely, I mean, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
Was built near the Chick Lane area, notorious for crime, and not all of Farringdon's history is proud, shall we say. Beneath its tracks lies a grim tale. Anne Naylor, a 13-year-old hatmaker's apprentice, was murdered in 1758 by her cruel employers, and her body discarded on this spot. Soon after the station's construction, people reported unnerving things, screams echoing through Farringdon's tunnels. According to London law, they are the death cries of Anne, also known as the Screaming Spectre, replaying endlessly in the darkness. Over the years, countless passengers and staff have all claimed to hear the horrific screams of Anne, to the point that even grown men have been left shivering. Some travellers refuse to linger on the platform. One author notes that if you stand on the platform, alone, at night, you may hear Anne Naylor's shrieks, echoing down those empty and dark tunnels. Witnesses describe the scream as sounding very faint to begin with, growing ever louder like an oncoming train, before becoming a deafening cacophony within your own ears.
I would like to know more about this story about Anne. I must see if I can find something out about this girl who worked in this place and was murdered by her employers. Why was she murdered by her employers? Did she steal off them? What did she do? I'd like to know more.
Yet whenever inspectors search for the source, they find nothing at all, no living sound. The sound isn't due to any delays on the line, said one investigator. And the backstory of Anne does make it not only more unsettling, but much more terrifying.
Yeah.
You see, where she was an apprentice, she was beaten, starved, and finally killed, and her body dumped where the station now stands.
She was beaten, starved, and dumped where the station now stands. We're going to have to try to find out more about this girl, Anne. Actually, see if we can get me more story about her, because it's intriguing me. That is absolutely shocking. Maybe this is the way people were treated in those days. Desperate, isn't it? Jesus wept up here, young girl. Carrie says, yeah. Yeah, Carrie's right, AJ. Don't worry about the dead. It's the living you have to worry about. Honestly, we need to find out more about this, Anne. Maybe have to have a wee look into it.
Some say it's her restless spirit that can't move on. Farrington's phantom doesn't appear visually. Instead, it pierces the silence with an agonized wail. For anyone who hears it, especially in the dead of night, as you could imagine, it's a harrowing experience, especially alone. It brings with it a brush of centuries-old crime. Paranormal researchers often cite this haunting as a classic example of a residual ghost, a traumatic event replaying itself over and over again, or stone tape theory as mentioned with the Covent Garden ghost. Either way, it's horrific to think of how people, especially children, were treated back in those days.
If anybody doesn't know, folks, residual energy, when they're talking about a residual, their residual generally means it's a replay. You know, things are being reenacted. The residual is something that, like, it's being replayed. And active energy is something which is active and is happening in the now. You know, a spirit will make, you know, things happen there and then. But residual is like a replay. They're reenacting what had happened. They're reenacting what has happened at the time. There you go.
But I think we're starting to move into the two darkest underground stations of the Tube. Because next, we're going to look at Bank Station. And if there was ever a name given to a spectre or a spirit, that definitely had the potential to strike the fear of God into anyone, it would be the spectre that allegedly haunts Bank Station. And her name is the Black Nun of Threadneedle Street. Bank Monument is a labyrinth complex in the city. It was first opened in 1900 during the expansion of the Underground itself. Bank Station is named for the Bank of England, which sits directly above it. And its tunnels weave beneath the sites of old churches, crypts. The station's history is so scarred by tragedy. It was built over a plague pit, a mass grave from the 17th century, and later struck by a World War II bomb in 1941, killing 56 people. So maybe it's no surprise, then, that Bank is steeped in this supernatural lore. The most famous apparition here at Bank is Sarah Whitehead, the Black Nun of Threadneedle Street. In 1812, Sarah's beloved brother, Philip, a Bank of England clerk, was executed for forgery. Heartbroken, Sarah began haunting the bank's courtyard daily, dressed in black mourning clothes and asking for her brother. She apparently kept this up for years and earned the nickname the Black Nun. In her death, her sorrow supposedly continued beneath the streets. And since the 19th century, both passengers and staff at Bank Station have all reported seeing a woman dressed in antiquated mourning clothes. complete with veil, shimmering through the station's dimly lit passages. Then there's a putrid smell that sometimes wafts through the tunnels with no earthly explanation. It often comes with an overwhelming sense of despondency and depression. Those who encounter the figure of Anne describe her as silent and grieving, forever seeking her lost brother. One worker believed he'd spotted an old lady in the station. So he goes over to them, given the early hours of the morning. He thought she'd have been locked in, which can happen. He tried to catch up with her, only for her to disappear down a corridor which had no escape. Employees of Bank Station have encountered knocking on the walls, wailing sounds echoing along the deserted platforms. The Black Nun's mournful spirit is said to drift between Bank Station and the Bank of England above, for they too have seen a woman dressed in funeral attire, with a veil across her face, in eternal grief. Folklore holds that Sarah's ghost cannot rest because she was buried on unconsecrated ground, that ground being Bank site itself. Indeed, 19th century bank clerks claim to have seen her in the bank's garden, kneeling and sobbing, before vanishing into thin air. Today, those who hurry through the Victorian tunnels of Bank Station may notice a chill in the air, or they may taste a whiff of decay, without so much of a second thought.
I'm just going to say something here, and again, it's probably because of his storytelling. I can actually, the way he's describing this, I can actually feel this woman's pain, this lady's pain, and what she went through and what she gone through. I could actually sort of imagine feeling her pain of the loss of her brother. Incredible.
Unlike more violent ghosts, Sarah doesn't seem to do any harm, but her eternal sorrow and the station's tomb-like atmosphere definitely make Bank one of London's most unnerving stations. Some even say the whispers of restless souls, from the plague victims to the bombing, which all took place at Bank, is a gathering point for a dark paranormal energy, seemingly amplifying the nun's presence. Our final station in our trip around the dark realm, which is London's Underground, is no longer in use.
Oh?
It is the abandoned station at the British Museum.
Oh?
And it is about the mummy's curse. In the tunnels deep under Bloomsbury lies the defunct British Museum station. Opened in 1900 and closed in 1933 when nearby Holborn station was expanded. Though trains no longer stop here, this ghost station has perhaps the Underground's most malevolent legend. It's said to be haunted by an ancient Egyptian entity, a curse carried from the museum above. According to the tale, a secret passage once linked the station to the British Museum, the Egyptian collection to be specific. Through that tunnel roams the ghost of an Egyptian princess, often called Amun-Ra. Her mummy board or coffin lid, known as the Unlucky Mummy, resides in the museum, item EA 22542, infamous for supposedly bringing misfortune. Disturbed from its tomb in Thebes and put on display, the spirit grew enraged. Soon after the station opened, commuters and staff began hearing horrifying sounds from the empty tunnels. Witnesses would describe a woman in ancient dress, loincloth, and pharaoh-style headdress, screaming in wrath beneath the city. This apparition was said to appear and vanish suddenly, her face a ghostly mask of rage. The woman would terrify staff and passengers with the most horrendous shrieks that would resound along the tracks, through the tunnels, and reverberate down the corridors. That was a report on the malevolent ghost of the British Museum station, known as the Princess of Amun-Ra.
Right.
The press sensationalised the haunting in the 20s, dubbing it a mummy's curse. In fact, no one ever claimed the reward to spend a night in the station.
So it actually made the press as well in those days, like?
No volunteer ever dared to face the screaming spectre. In 1935, a popular film, Bulldog Jack, featured a fictionalised version of the station with a secret mummy tomb, further cementing the legend. Eerily, on the movie's premiere night, rumours swirled that 2 women vanished from Holborn Station, and strange marks were later found on the walls of the abandoned British Museum stop. Newspapers never proved this, but it fueled the myth. And for decades afterwards, late-night Holborn travellers would report muffled moans, as if the princess's ghost was still wandering around. Historians are sceptical. One 1932 article suggested that this might have just been an optical illusion from a museum mummy case, maybe reflecting in the light. But the legend persists. Today, Holborn Station, which replaced the British Museum station, still has staff and passengers who do claim to hear inexplicable screams in the tunnels. Occult enthusiasts link the site to the British Museum's collection, the collection of cursed artefacts, and London's broader fascination with Egyptology, not least the tale of the unlucky mummy, which was even falsely blamed for the sinking of the Titanic. The British Museum station's ghost story is a classic blend of that mummy curse folklore with the very real eeriness of a derelict underground stop. Now, whether one believes it or not, the idea of a vengeful 3,000-year-old spirit shrieking beneath London's streets, well, that's enough to send a shiver down anyone's spine.
Absolutely.
The legends of these 4 stops have all accumulated a legacy of terror that reflect London's layered history. From a murdered actor, abused child, a grieving nun, and an ancient princess. These ghosts, their personality, their tragedy and injustice from eras past, is what makes these hauntings especially compelling. The way they intertwine with real historical events. A 19th century murder, an 18th century crime, a public execution, and the excavation of a cursed relic. Witness reports from Victorian times to the present day have kept the legends alive and well, added to by paranormal researchers and London's thriving folklore scene. Some attribute the sightings to natural explanations, echoing noises, infrasound, things bouncing off the walls of tunnels. But others swear by the paranormal accounts. Ultimately, the enduring tales of these 4 stations add an extra layer of mystique to the tube. They remind us that beneath the electrical hum of modern trains lies a shadowy world of memory and myth. Ghost or not, it is a fact that the London Underground was built through plague pits, churchyards, literally tunnelling through history. Maybe that's why so many ghost stories have taken root in these places. And the next time you find yourself taking a train, maybe pause and listen. That sound you hear might just be the wind. Or it might be one of these restless spirits, continuing their eternal journey below ground. In the underground's silent hours, the past and the present feel perilously close. And for those who truly believe, I wonder if they question when they get on a train which takes them deep underground of the city centre, if they'll ever leave that truly dark realm. So that brings us to an end of our first video edition of Dark Realms.
Amazing.
I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments if so.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've never done this before, so it's probably awful. And I'm
You've
okay
never
with
done
it.
it before? Oh my god.
And of course, if you're listening on audio, please go over and check the video out on YouTube, and vice versa. If you're new to the show and you're watching this for the first time, search for The Dark Paranormal wherever you get your podcasts.
And there you go. I'm just going to leave that up there for a couple of minutes. That was absolutely incredible. That guy there is, looks there, Luke says he loves it. That guy there is absolutely amazing. So that's the Dark Paranormal channel, folks, on YouTube. And by the sounds of it as well, he does podcasts, so maybe it could be on Spotify. What I will do, again, I will put the links to these two videos, the YouTube channels, in the description on Facebook and also on YouTube. And please go and check them out. That was absolutely incredible. Carrie says I'll be watching cartoons after the next hour after this. It's just, your man was absolutely, totally amazing. So there you go. Don't forget, folks, we're back next Wednesday night again with more spookiness, because our Julie is joining us. There's Will coming in. He's coming on at the end. Our Will. Our Julie's on next Wednesday night. On her YouTube channel is Explaining Scotland's History. And that one we will be looking at various Scottish witch stories, plus also touching on the witchcraft trials of Scotland as well. Tim says that was really, really interesting. And Will says, trust me to come in late. Luke says they're normally for my bedtime psycho alert. Well, it's all over, dear. You're at the end. But honestly, check out those channels. As I say, I will put the link in for the two YouTube channels. But your man his storytelling was just absolutely amazing. He drew you in, and he said that was maybe he's done podcasts before, but that is his first video that he's ever did. Well done to him. Will's never on track. My sister-in-law is a white witch. She lives in Scotland. Well, there you are, Will. So what's next Wednesday night? Julie's here from the YouTube channel, exploring Scotland's history. If you want to check out her YouTube channel as well, she's actually a friend of mine. I've known Julie for quite a long time, and she lives in Scotland now. I mean, her were talking the other night, and we're meeting up at the start of the week to prepare for next Wednesday. I'm just going to say something about Julie. It has to be right. She will not. Everything has to be perfect with you. She works in a museum in Scotland. I think she's assistant curator or something. And there's no messing about with Julie, so you'll not get any incorrect information, that will tell you. I'm so excited for Scottish Witches, Carrie says. So once again, folks, thanks very much for coming in tonight. As I say, next Wednesday night, we've got Julie. And then on Monday the 26th, just before I go, because there was a date change. Was it the 26th? Just maybe let's up my arse here, dear. We'll just say, where's my list? Hang on. Yes, it's the list of events. The book club is Monday. I think it's Monday the 26th. It was put back a week, and that'll be the start of the book club, and it'll be a wee quick one that night, because that'll be the introduction to the book and what the book is going to be, and it's a belter. The book is a belter. Well, right, folks, thanks very much for joining me tonight. Thanks for everybody for coming in who made the effort to come in. And I'll see you all very soon. Tim over on YouTube, thank you very much. Carrie, Will, and Oakman. Luke was in there, one of our new members. Nice to see Luke, and Jackie McFarlane, our Michelle McGrogan, and everybody. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you, Jackie. Carrie says I flew through a whole podcast, which is the Scotland credible, and the world Zoe and Claire are doing to try to be accused of exonerated and permanent monument to their memory. Amazing. And AJ was in as well. Don't want to forget anybody. Look, thanks for coming in, folks. Don't forget any Auntie Lillian followers. She is live tomorrow night on TikTok at 8 p.m. tomorrow night for her new Thursday night supper club. I don't know what that's about. And keep an eye out for these mysterious videos of Lillian coming up too. Listen, folks, thanks very much for coming in. Look after yourselves and take care. And wrap up warm because it's bloody Baltic out there.